It was a crisp autumn afternoon in a quiet corner of Cornwall. The date was October 20th, 1998. A 41-year-old woman, well known and loved in her small community, went for a routine walk with her dog along the country lanes she knew so well. She never came home. What followed was one of the most haunting unsolved murders in modern British history. A crime so brutal, so shocking, that it left an entire community reeling, and investigators chasing a faceless killer who has managed to evade justice for more than 2 decades. This is the story of the murder of Lyn Bryant. Lyn Bryant was, by all accounts, an ordinary woman living an ordinary life. Born and raised in Cornwall, she lived with her husband, Ivan, and their 2 daughters in the small village of Roseland High Lanes on the Roseland Peninsula. Friends and family remember her as warm, friendly, and down-to-earth, a devoted wife, mother, and daughter. Lyn worked part-time as a cleaner and often helped her parents, who lived nearby. She was rooted in her community, the kind of person everyone seemed to know. At 41, she was at that stage in life where routines were set and comfortable. She was happy, she was loved, and she had no known enemies. Nothing about her life suggested that violence was coming her way. But sometimes, tragedy doesn't follow logic. Sometimes, danger appears on the most ordinary of days. On Tuesday, October 20th, 1998, Lyn set out for a normal day. She did housework in the morning and visited her parents, as she often did. Around 12:45 p.m., she left her parents' home, accompanied by the family's dog, a lurcher named Daisy. She took a familiar route, a quiet country lane that stretched across open farmland. It was a place she had walked countless times before, isolated, but safe, or so it seemed. Sometime after 1 p.m., she was seen alive by a motorist driving down the road. The witness later recalled Lyn walking with Daisy, the dog, off its lead. Not long after, another motorist spotted her again. This time, she appeared to be talking to a man near a layby. The sighting was fleeting, but the detail would prove critical. At around 2:30 p.m., a passing tourist discovered something horrific: Lyn's body. She was lying in the gateway of a field, just off the lane. She had been brutally stabbed multiple times. Daisy, the dog, stood near her body, unharmed but distressed. The attack was sudden, vicious, and without mercy. Lyn Bryant, a wife and mother, was dead. Police were immediately called, and the investigation began at full speed. The case shocked the quiet Cornish community. Murders like this were rare, almost unheard of in such a rural place. Detectives quickly determined that Lyn had been the victim of a frenzied attack. She suffered multiple stab wounds, including defensive injuries, suggesting she had fought hard to survive. The brutality of the murder indicated intense rage, but Lyn's life offered no clues as to why she might have been targeted. She had no connections to crime, no known disputes, nothing to suggest a personal motive. So, investigators considered, could this have been random? Could she have crossed paths with a stranger who meant her harm? One of the most significant leads came from eyewitnesses. Several people reported seeing Lyn in the hour before her murder. Around 1:10 p.m., she was seen talking to an unidentified man by a layby. He was described as being in his late 30s or early 40s, of medium build, with short dark hair. The description was vague but consistent. Another witness recalled a gray car parked nearby, possibly a Ford Escort or similar model. This man and that car became central to the case. Forensic evidence was also collected. Police recovered DNA from the crime scene, believed to belong to the killer, but in 1998, DNA technology was still developing. While they could preserve the sample, it would take years for advances to make it fully useful. Despite a massive manhunt, no arrest was made. The investigation generated a number of theories and potential suspects. First, detectives examined Lyn's personal life. Her husband, Ivan, was questioned, as is standard procedure in cases like this, but he had a solid alibi and no evidence linked him to the crime. The marriage was stable, and he was soon ruled out. Attention shifted to the unidentified man by the layby. Could he have been a stranger passing through? Or perhaps someone local, known to Lyn? Despite nationwide appeals, he was never identified. Some speculated the killer could have been a traveling worker, a builder, a tradesman, or even someone connected to the seasonal tourist trade in Cornwall. Others wondered if the attacker had stalked Lyn, waiting for an opportunity when she was alone. Over the years, police also looked at known offenders, including violent criminals and convicted murderers. One name that came up in public speculation was Christopher Halliwell, the taxi driver later convicted of murdering 2 women in Wiltshire. The crimes bore some resemblance, and Halliwell was known to have traveled widely. However, no evidence has ever firmly connected him to Lyn's case. Another theory pointed to the possibility of a sexually motivated attack. Although there was no confirmed evidence of sexual assault, the circumstances suggested the killer may have had such an intent. And yet, every suspect, every lead, seemed to circle back to nothing. The faceless man by the layby remained a shadow in the story, a ghost investigators could never pin down. The murder of Lyn Bryant devastated the Roseland Peninsula community. This was a place where people rarely locked their doors, where neighbors trusted each other, where violent crime felt unthinkable. In the days after Lyn's death, flowers piled up near the scene. Vigils were held. People walked in groups rather than alone, fearful that a killer might still be at large. The media descended on Cornwall, reporting on every development. Headlines branded it the Roseland murder or the Cornish Lane killing. For a community that thrived on peace and anonymity, the glare of national attention was overwhelming. But as weeks turned into months, and months into years, the case went cold. Leads dried up. Appeals went unanswered. The media spotlight faded, but the grief remained. For Lyn's family, the pain was unrelenting. Her daughters grew up without their mother. Her husband carried the weight of unanswered questions. And her elderly parents died without ever knowing who killed their daughter. More than 25 years later, the murder of Lyn Bryant remains one of the most notorious unsolved cases in Britain. Despite the passing of time, several mysteries continue to haunt investigators and the public alike. Who was the man at the layby? Was he local or just passing through? Did he know Lyn, or was she simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? What about the car? The gray vehicle spotted near the scene was never traced. Was it connected, or just an unfortunate coincidence? Why Lyn? She had no enemies, no dangerous associations. Was she specifically targeted or chosen at random? And what about the DNA? Police have a full genetic profile of the killer. In 2018, on the 20th anniversary of the murder, investigators made a fresh appeal, hoping that advancements in forensic genealogy could finally reveal the truth. But so far, the DNA has matched no one in the national database. The killer's identity remains hidden. The murder of Lyn Bryant is a chilling reminder that even in the most peaceful places, violence can strike without warning. Here was a woman walking her dog on a quiet country lane she had traveled hundreds of times before. In the blink of an eye, she was gone, her life stolen by someone who has walked free for more than 2 decades. It's a case that leaves us unsettled because it remains unfinished. Somewhere out there, a man carries the secret of what happened on that October afternoon. Somewhere, someone may know the truth. For Lyn's family, justice has been a lifetime in waiting. For the people of Cornwall, the memory of her murder lingers like a wound that never healed. For Lyn's family, justice has been a lifetime in waiting. For the people of Cornwall, the memory of her murder lingers like a wound that never healed. And for the rest of us, it raises haunting questions. How could such a brutal crime remain unsolved despite witnesses, despite DNA, despite decades of investigation? What does it mean for a community when safety itself feels like an illusion? Until the day answers come, the story of Lyn Bryant will remain one of Britain's most haunting unsolved mysteries. This is Case Unknown, where cold cases refuse to stay buried. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more haunting mysteries. And don't forget to like the video to support real crime stories that deserve to be heard. Drop your theories in the comments.